Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you 10 ways in which you can instantly upgrade your paragraphs in GCSE English literature. We're going to concentrate here on just the openings of paragraphs, which if you get right can instantly transform your answer from something that is just good to something really sophisticated, which is going to instantly boost your grade. So when you're ready, grab a pen and let's make a start. Number one is character development, and a template might look something like this. By the close of the play, the once has developed into, so for example, by the close of the novella, the once mean-spirited Scrooge has transformed or developed into a compassionate and forgiving character. And what you can see here is that I'm tracking the narrative arc of that character development. Some students will just think of character as one-dimensional, but they're not. They always change and adapt to the situations in which they find themselves. So a good student will be able to understand that characters always develop. Number two is character motives. Is motivated not only by, but also by. For example, Macbeth is motivated not only by his desire to become king, but also by his desire to please his wife. It's useful to talk about character motivations because it shows that you understand the three-dimensionality of characters. Think about Shakespeare, who through his characters is trying to tell us very complicated things about the human psyche and what drives us. If you can understand that those motivations are often multifaceted, it's much more likely that your response is going to have that extra layer of sophistication. Number three, considering alternative viewpoints. Some readers might propose that, however others might argue that. Some readers might propose that Shakespeare's portrayal of Shylock was cruel and unfair, however others might argue that Shakespeare was merely reflecting the attitudes of the time. Alternative viewpoints are one of the keys to higher grades. It shows the examiner or your teacher that you understand literature texts can be interpreted at different ways by different audiences at different times. Your response is not the only response. There are others out there. This is a really important thing for you to learn. Number four is deepening analysis. Although on first glance, on closer inspection, so for example, although on first glance their romance seems idyllic, on closer inspection there is clear tension between them. So this is another example of how you can clearly discuss layers of meaning. Often in literature, things are simply not as they seem, and a good writer will indicate to you subtly, often you'll have to infer this, that there are deeper levels of analysis to be drawn. So starting your paragraph like this is going to instantly lock you into that way of thinking. Number five is exemplifying. Reveals his or her belief in, through his or her description of. The poet reveals his belief in the futility of war through his harrowing description of suffering. This is important because it helps you engage with the big question of what is the writer trying to do? Try not to talk about a text as if this is something that really happened. It's not. Texts and literature are always written with a specific purpose in mind. Why is Charles Dickens so keen on describing poverty in such a humane way? It's because he's trying to get something across to you. And so by using this structure, you'll instantly be able to understand that. Number six, first impressions. Our first impressions of ... So for example, our first impressions of the Burling family are tainted by their arrogance and materialism. First impressions matter, guys, in art, in literature, and in real life. An author will think long and hard about how to introduce a certain character to you. Often those first impressions might turn out to be mistaken, but that's why you're using this sentence structure, so you can exemplify that the character has got an initial meaning or an initial response which might develop as the novel progresses. Number seven is identifying a common thread. Throughout the novel, or throughout the poem or play, the poet explores the pain of unrequited love in various ways. So this is another technique where, well, I kind of tell my students that you can take a bird's eye view of the text. So you view a text once as a reader, but then after you know the story and that you know the narrative, you can look at a text more as a student, that is, being able to see the text from the top down and understanding that the author has almost certainly laid common themes and common motifs through the text. that you can explore with this kind of sentence structure. Number 8, the most important word. The most important word, phrase, moment, chapter is, for example, the most important line in a poem is the refrain, "but nothing happens," because it reinforces the poet's sense of boredom. This is important because it instantly shows that you can evaluate a text. And examiners love this. It's at the top of the mark scheme no matter what exam board that you're studying. It shows that not only do you understand a text, but you can weigh up and make your own judgments as to which parts are most important or most haunting or most harrowing, and really dial into those parts of the text which you feel are of specific importance. Number 9 is reader response. The reader is caught between and, for example, the reader is caught between empathy for Scrooge and disgust for the cruelty of his treatment of others. 2 words here, guys: subtlety and nuance. They are right at the top of the mark scheme in GCSE English literature. What that means is that you, as a reader, don't just have one flat emotional response to a text, but instead your emotional response is subtle. You might, for example, find a character immensely dislikable, but then realize that they are actually quite sympathetic by the end of a text. Thinking of A Christmas Carol here. Or think of Macbeth. At the beginning, he seems brave and he seems loyal, but we're caught between admiration of Macbeth and disgust at the violent nature of his actions. Finally, interior versus exterior. For example, on the exterior, yet on the interior, we can infer. On the exterior, Lady Macbeth appears callous, yet on the interior, we can infer her powers are dwindling. Everything is simply not as it seems in literature. Just like in life, people don't wear their emotions outwardly, and a judicious student is able to understand that there are layers of meaning in any fictional text. And if you can uncover those layers of meaning and figure out what's happening on the surface versus what's happening on the inside, then you're much more likely to be on track for an exceptional grade. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Do click like and subscribe so you can be alerted when more videos pop up. See you soon.